Well, hello everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Hey, it's Linda Anderson here from Linda Lou Creates. Thanks so much for joining me. I have two mini slimline cards to share with you today, and I've done some stenciling. I've kind of gotten into the groove of loving stencils. So the blender brushes, or blending brushes I should say, really make it awesome. So let me show you these two cards and kind of what I did there. I'm going to start off with this one right here. Now, yes, I did say it's a mini slimline card. You know what, I'm going to move it over here. I just have a little more room. A mini slimline card is... This measures then 6 inches by 7 inches. So then it is scored down the center at 3.5. So you put the 7-inch side into your scoring tool, and then it's halfway at 3.5. All right. So that way, when you fold it in half, you have 6 by 3.5. All right. So let me just go ahead and fold that. I already have a piece of white on the inside, and this measures 5 3/4 by 3 1/4. All right. Let me show you the stamp set, well actually the bundle that I'm featuring on both of these cards. It's the Frosted Gingerbread stamp set here, and here are the dies. These are a blast to use. I especially love these, where you can either die cut out the stamp image here, let's just say of the snowflake, or here's one that's more intricate and you can cut that then out of something. I've done it out of like foil paper, glitter paper. It's all tons of fun. That outline die will also cut out the paper, the gingerbread and peppermint paper. So like here are a couple of them that you can die cut out. So that's what I did, and then just have a bunch of these images now ready to go to put on cards. So that's what I love about these, where they have the dies and the paper that coordinate. But back to my card. All right, we have the card base. Now, for the front of the card, the piece I'm going to stencil on, this is crumb cake, by the way. I don't believe I told you that. But I have it, it is at 5.5 by 3 inches. So that's my main piece that I'm going to do some stenciling on. And I just then cut a piece of the basic white, just 1/8 of an inch bigger, making this 5 3/8 by 3 1/8, just to layer underneath. And let me just grab some scrap paper. Now, the stencils that I'm going to use are out of the Holiday Mini Catalog that's out and available right now. And this one is the snowflakes. So I'm just going to go ahead and find just a little bit. I know I still have my snail. Yeah, so just a little dabble-dia. Then I like to also press my finger in there just to get out some of the tack out of it. And I will just go ahead and set that down. So now this is not going to move around on me. I will take, this is actually, it comes in a set of 4 of these, and they're called Adorning Designs Decorative Masks. So I love them. I love the stencils and the using of the blending brushes. So from here, I like to now just use, I have some Post-it tape. Anything, if you have like low tack Scotch tape or removable Scotch tape, you can use that. Anything to just then hold your stencil down and in place. Being careful, because I just kind of got that one caught in my hand, and it's so intricate that I kind of bent that up. So we'll see what we can do there. With ones, normally for stenciling, what I do is, I don't know why I put those there. Normally I like to go, once I load up my brush, is to go in a circular motion. With these that have very delicate pieces to them, I try not to, because if I go one way, I could actually kind of bend up a piece of that. So now I have this down, and I am going to use my Whisper White stamping pad. Now this is a craft ink or a pigment ink, so it does stay wet a little longer, but I feel like I don't load my brush up very far, or very much. But I feel like because I am kind of rubbing it into the cardstock, and I am doing this very lightly, like I said, this die, or this stencil rather, is just so delicate. I really don't want to harm it and bend it up. But I feel like because I'm rubbing the ink into the paper, that I'm almost kind of getting it to dry quicker, because I'm getting it to sink down into the paper. That's the thing with pigment inks. They tend to sit on top of your paper or your cardstock, and that's why they stay wet longer. That's why you can then put embossing powder on and emboss them. But I'm just gonna do this, like I said, I'm just doing just a very thin layer, rubbing it in and getting ready to then lift this off. I like to wipe down my stencil obviously whenever I'm done. I will clean my brush too. I just kind of use just a rag and some that's wet. For my stencil itself, I will use a rag as well, but because this is so, you can hear it snagging on there, I'm actually going to run this instead underwater. But if it wasn't quite so grab on so much, I would just use my rag there and wipe it off and clean it off. So let's see what we got. Very subtle, but very pretty. I really love this. All right, so let me now take that off and move this out of the way. Let's get ready to finish this card. There's not much left to it. So, all right, I'm going to take my panel and put it on top of my white layer here. You can use any color. I thought of red as well, but for some reason I wanted just a hint of red, and that is coming in the sentiment instead. So let me just go ahead and get that popped down, and then this is actually going to go down to the card base. I really don't have an up or a down with this, so I'm good. I'll just put whichever side up I want. So, all right. So let me go ahead and put this down. Again, a mini slimline card. I started with a piece that's 6 by 7, and along the 7-inch side, I just scored and folded it at the halfway point, so 3.5 for that. All right, now I am using, again, out of the new holiday mini catalog, these wonderful snowflakes. They really are. I love the pearlescence to them. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue right in the center, and I'm going to lay this down. All right. Now from the Frosted Gingerbread stamp set, I just used this. Actually, I used some Poppy Parade and to stamp the Happy Holidays, and then I banner cut the ends. This strip is about 1/2 inch wide, maybe a little bit more, but you kind of do it based on whatever your sentiment is as far as that goes. So I'm just going to pop this down, and the only decoration or embellishment I'm going to use are a couple of these holiday rhinestone basic jewels. So I'm going to use, you know what, on the sample card, let me bring that back in. I used these ones that kind of remind me of Pool Party. So I think this time I'm going to use the green ones here. So that'll look good. I know, I'm so not the holiday traditional color person, and here I am going red and green, so who knew? So anyway, there we go. Here is card number 1 using the snowflake stencil and just some white ink. All right, let me show you the other one again then. So I'm going to bring in, here is the sample. Now again, this stencil that's in the background is again out of that Adorning Designs decorative mask pack. And that one, I just wanted a little bit of it to show in the background. I didn't want the whole thing covered with it. So let me just go over the supplies that I'm going to use. Here are 2 of the snowflakes that I had die cut out of the gingerbread and peppermint paper. And I'm going to use those instead of the stars that I have here. So there those are. I have my base, my card base. This time it is the thick basic white. Like I said, 7 by 6. Scored and folded at 3 1/2. I have a piece of real red, 5 3/8 by 3 1/8. Because then my white piece right here is the 5 1/2 by 3. Now, I already have it adhered down to my stencil, all right? I just kind of lined it up the way I wanted it and then just used some Post-it tape on the back to hold it in place, all right? I wanted to get that part out of the way. So let me bring back my paper here. All right, and now let me just go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and just add a couple little pieces here of the Post-it tape to hold the stencil itself in place. Might be a little overboard, but we're going to go with it. Okay, now the ink that I'm going to use here is the soft seafoam and another blender brush. I try and use like all green. I use one brush for all reds, another brush, pinks, so on and so forth. So you don't need one brush for every single color of ink that you have. Just do it kind of in the color family, so to speak. So I have the soft seafoam, and again, all I want to do is just a hint of it. I don't want to cover the whole thing. All right, sometimes I just kind of tap it off to the side, and I'm just going to start now this one because the stencil itself is a little more solid. There's not a lot of those fine little things sticking out like there was on the snowflake stencil. This time I can go in the circle motion that I like to do. If you hold it down at the end, you are not applying a lot of pressure because the end of the brush is so flexible. You really are not, like I say, creating a lot of pressure and then putting on a lot of ink. If you want more ink, I recommend holding your finger down while you're doing it. Or the way I like to do it is I like to hold it this way. That way, because I'll be honest with you, I am very heavy-handed when it comes to sponging and stenciling and all of that. So, all right, I'm going to go with that for now and see what we got. Let me lift up one of these and let's see if I'm anywhere close. Yep, perfect. There we go. Like I said, I didn't want a lot of it on, so now let me just kind of move some of my inky stuff out of the way here. And so here now is my background for the next card. So I think I went a little overboard taping that down, but you know, I was trying to get things done ahead of time and that just seemed like the right thing to do. So anyway, let me now move this off to the side and we can start building the card. So I'm going to go ahead and put my 2 layers together. So I'm going to put my 5 1/2 by 3 inch piece down to the red. That is just 1/8 of an inch bigger. So like I said, this is the real red that I'm using on this one. Okay. Now let's go ahead and pop this down to the card base. And Now, you're going to be very surprised that the only thing I have popped up on this card is the sentiment. So, I have the snowflakes adhered down. And let me just kind of eyeball where I want to put those. And then I'll have my sentiment going right here. Okay, that's what I like. So let's go ahead and get these snowflakes down. With all, there's a, you know, all of those other, a bell and an ornament and the stars again. So that's what's fun about this paper. And then the dies that can cut it out for you. So you can have all kinds of a nice variety then. So let's go ahead. Let me make sure I have enough on there. And all right. So those are adhered down. Well, let me go ahead and get my sentiment put down. That, like I said, I have dimensionals on the back. This is 3 inches wide, so it's going to go from side to side here. As far as the width of it, or the height, I don't know which I should call that. You know, you do it to fit your sentiment. So let me get that on straight. And once again, I'm going to pull in those holiday rhinestones. And if I could find, here it is, my Picket tool. I'm going to go ahead and put on 2 of the red rhinestones right in the center here of the snowflake. So there we go. Very simple cards. Lots of fun being the size that it is. And most fun of all for me was the stenciling, because like I said, that is my latest kick right now, is stenciling. So, and using those blending brushes. So here this one is with the snowflakes. Here it is with the stars. Let me bring in the other cards that we made. And I was playing around some more with them, so I will have to finish it though. So I was just doing some different layers here, just coming up with some things. Some were failures, I'll be honest with you, but otherwise it's just a lot of fun. So it's paper, flip it over if something doesn't work, but get those masks, get some blending brushes, and have some fun. So all right, guys. Hey, thanks so much for joining me. I always appreciate when you spend a little time with me, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Bye now.